Hello everyone, I am Surbi, founder of LegalWiki, and I welcome you to this special podcast episode on the most debated topic on how AI is transforming the legal industry. In this podcast, we will be talking about how AI is transforming the legal industry, whether AI will replace lawyers, the impact of AI on law firms and litigation work, what will be the impact on jobs, and how startups are driving this change. Before we dive into the topic, for those who are watching for the first time, Legal Week is a platform dedicated to simplifying legal news, career guidance, and skill building for law students and professionals. Our mission has always been to understand the challenges faced by the legal community and make their journey easier through practical, job ready programs designed in collaborations with leading law firms and experts. Through our podcast series, we aim to connect you with legal industry professionals so that you can learn from their experiences. You can check out our website legalwiki.co for more information. Now, coming back to today's podcast, we have with us Ms. Adrika, co-founder of Knowledge, building an AI native multiverse for lawyers that helps lawyers to get clients and also enables them to win cases. They have built AI powered legal companion to simplify legal research, drafting, and case strategy. Apart from this, knowledge also empowers lawyers to build a strong professional brand in the digital age to establish them as thought leaders in the legal industry. So, without further ado, let's get started. Hey, Adrika, welcome to the podcast. How have you been?
Hi. It's all been good. How are you?
I'm also good. So, I'm glad that you have joined us today. So, let's get started.
Sure. Perfect.
Yeah. So, Adrika, as I mentioned, the agenda of this podcast will be to understand your journey, know about knowledge, and get into the world of AI to understand how AI is, changing or impacting the legal industry. So, with this, let's start with the first question. So, first of all, I would like to, understand your journey of building knowledge during your law school and what problem did you see and why do you believe AI was the right solution?
Okay. So thanks for the question. Uh, I'm currently still in my final year. I'm still a law student. So it started when I was doing internships in my first year. I was doing multiple internship with senior advocates, judges, major law firms of this country. But I used to feel frustrated when my senior used to give me a research proposition to research upon and used to take me days to find that one single, let's say sometimes it was one case law that was relevant, others all nuisance what I used to get. Yeah, I used to skim across a lot of pages, lot of summaries, lot of documents, and then too I used to be frustrated by not getting the right result. And then came the advent of chat gpt. Now chat gpt came with a pro and a con both. It was very fast. It gives you a sort of a deemed right answer, but which is not. If you go into the details, it cites up case laws on its own which don't exist in the first place. I mean, this problem is called hallucination by AI. So I was frustrated. Okay, I mean, there is chat gpt, but still it is not relevant for law. So I wanted to create something as a chat gpt for lawyers, which is accurate, reliable, and secure at the same time. So then, I met my co-founder Ritik. At He's also a batchmate at my law school. But he had a BTech degree previously in computer science. He had also worked at Nomura Research Institute building AI powered finance stock breaking solutions. So he applied that knowledge of AI that he used for finance in law, and then we built something useful for lawyers. So the first tool that we built was Legal Companion for litigation lawyers. So what it does is that it gives you 100% accurate citations. That means, whatever citation it gives, it does not mean it does not exist at the first place. So you can cross check and verify then and there. So this sort of build trust and credibility. Then comes the performance part, when we have been lauded a lot for the accuracy and performance of our software. So all these things, we have had a successful beta test of that product. Many people are using it at the moment. Yeah, and like, why AI was the right thing? Because now with AI in this age, it has revolutionized everything that we do. It has penetrated every industry. It has revolutionized every particular job role. So, and it's just like a .com, I mean, revolution that happened previously, that, people shifting on the internet rather from the books. So, I mean, you have to adapt to it and, make things accordingly. But for law specifically, it's very difficult, to use AI as it is, because there is scarcity of data. Like particularly in India, if you were in US, it would have been easier because they have very good structured judicial data available publicly in open source. Whereas on the contrary, here in India, it's very difficult to source the right data. I mean, the courts also provide you very scant and scattered data which you cannot rely upon. So it took us a lot of time, to structure that data and create our own proprietary knowledge base. So yeah, and eventually also to fit in the workflow of the user, that was also actually a sort of a task. It took us 2 3 iterations to reach at that level, like what exactly a lawyer needs, so that it is not a task for him. Like for example, if we see traditional legal tools, let's say SSC Manupatra, you have to learn them in order to use them, right? Keywords, boolean search, all the other things. But we wanted to make something very simplified, that you just ask it and it does everything for you. Let's say you want to prepare arguments, it does it for you. You just upload your case file. You want to know, one popular use case that our users act as a devil's advocate, to see the opponents arguments and strategies and then prepare accordingly. And apart from that, it is used to draft, research, and do all the things. Basically what I say is that it does everything right after client consultation. Before you argue in court, it handles everything for you. So yeah, I mean, yeah, so that is how we started. And then we identified another gap in the legal profession, that they cannot advertise themselves. So how else can a law firm or a legal professional promote their service? So that is via presenting themselves as thought leaders in the industry, via content marketing, via the digital presence that they built on social media and also on Google. So let's say somebody searches best lawyer in Delhi, so your name pops up. So how will it be done? The more backlinks that you generate, the more content that you post. And also the, like for awards and everything, people now do Google search only, or let's say social media, they see your LinkedIn, what are your credentials and everything. But the problem with them was that they don't have the time and the bandwidth to do so. Everybody wants to become that, but they don't have the time to do so. And the existing solution, the crippling solution at hand, so that was the social media agencies. But the problem with them was that they lacked the domain expertise. They used to give any content and they're very costly and also take a lot of time. Now here again we fit in, as a better alternative, that we give you domain expertise, deep research content in the best presented manner, and we build professional brands for law firms and also other consulting firms, wherein thought leadership and deep research content, white paper labels, and other things associated is evolved. So yeah, and yeah, like right now also, like once you are in the industry and you are building a lot of things in a revolving AI, so people approach you. Then we were approached by a major law firm in the country, I won't disclose the name. So we are building a tool risk intelligence analytical tool, which will act as a risk avoidance audit for the companies in general. So yeah, I mean, and we are collaborating with various industry experts, general counsels, lawyers doing due diligence, private equity, and other things, and even VCs, for instance, to prepare something of this kind, which will be beneficial for all.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for explaining in detail. So if
Sure.
I'll sum up, so basically there are two type of services right now you guys are providing. The first one is you're providing an AI tool for lawyers for the research purpose. And the second one is that as lawyers are not able to advertise themselves for their services in BCI compliance, right?
Yeah.
You are
Yeah.
advertising their businesses services, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you're also working on a new service that is the risk analysis tool. So
Yeah,
that
risk avoidance and
risk
integrated risk
avoidance.
avoidance tool. Yeah.
So, and one more thing you mentioned right now, that as ChatGPT hallucinates, so to make it better for the lawyers, you are building this particular, AI tool knowledge. But
Mm-hmm.
still, I believe that 90% or more than that, lawyers, law students, they all the works are done by their ChatGPT only. Still, what do you think? Matlab, they are still working with ChatGPT, right?
Even
So
I work with ChatGPT. It is fine.
yes, yeah, still knowing that it hallucinates, right? So again, as you mentioned that ki you are providing them a better services, like 100% a person can rely on your website. So do you guarantee that it's a risk free? Your platform does not hallucinate. So like it's better than Chat GPT, so that ki lawyers can actually shift from Chat GPT to knowledge.
Exactly, exactly. So definitely, the added advantage, as I even previously summed up, is we are accurate, we are secure, and we are reliable. That is the prime most offering that we have over, let's say, any other general AI tool, either it be Chat GPT, either it be Claude, Gemini, or anything.
What about
So
the
the
privacy concern?
yeah, exactly. So privacy concern. So we have enterprise grade security for every client server that we host, or every client account that we host, and a lot of things like the toy stack infrastructure, wherein the data does not reach the other level. We have certifications as well, and we are GDPR compliant and now DPDP compliant, the new rules that came in recently. So yeah, you ought to keep these things, and foremost important thing, because since lawyers' work is protected by attorney client privilege, so your data is very confidential, your client's data, you cannot share it with a third person. So herein, we come as a safer alternative if you compare us with vis-a-vis the other general AI tools. So one is that. And secondly, the also the accuracy, like hallucination. Okay, so this is a very interesting facet, and that is exactly what instigated me building this product. So hallucination, why it hallucinates, we should first understand the origin as to why general AI tools hallucinate. Then we would be in a better position to explain that why my tool doesn't, and what measures and guardrails I've created to not go to that extent. So AI in general is forced to answer. Okay, even if it does not know something, it will give you a dimmed answer. You must have noticed across your
Right.
experience. It will always conform to you, it will always agree to you, it will always give you an answer. So it is forced to do that. So now the problem lies, like, let's say you ask something which is, like, let's say, a niche topic in law, and not much of a data is available on the internet regarding it, or any case laws related to it's not available much on the internet. So AI does not have access to that information. Agreed? Because it is not out there in the internet. Now, secondly, but it will still answer. Now, what it will answer is anything. It will make up things on its own, which seem that it is relevant, but in the reality, that particular case does not exist. Or maybe it is citing some case, but what is inside does not exist in reality. I mean, that case is not about that particular thing only. So that is a problem with Gen AI tools. Now, where we fit in is that our tool, as I told you, we've created our own proprietary knowledge base, right? Now that is a compilation of all judgments of Supreme Court, High Court, and all the statutes at central and state level. So we have given it access. My AI tool has access to all the primary legal sources, and the data is very refined and structured and formulated for the suitable use. So whatever query you ask, it will go and fetch from that database, which is reliable. So it is checked, cross checked, and that is why we can claim 100% accuracy that we give right cases out there.
That's great. That's amazing. So, who are your primary users, like lawyers, or is there any age criteria? Or law students can also use it. Who will be your primary users?
Okay, so how I intend to position this product, the legal companion product, is it's actually sort of a corollary that right from interns to senior advocates,
Okay.
everybody has a use case for it. I'll tell you why. And even the young professionals, the junior lawyers as well. So let's say you are a senior advocate, okay? So earlier, what you used to designate work to your juniors, right? That this is
Correct.
the case. You read it and then you designate. अच्छा, इसका draft बना दो, इसका ये rejoinder बना दो. You do this. You particular do research on this argument. Do research on this, like that. You can give the same commands to my product. It will give you a better result, that too in a faster time. It's like a junior who never sleeps. So
Okay.
that is one use case. Second is for young professionals. Like, it is enabling for them. Earlier, they understand the law, but the thing is that what strategy to go forward to, and the nitty gritties of nuances of experiences which you need of or a lawyer. You used to ask your senior or your friend or somebody for even the small things, like if there are three strategies, which one should I opt to? All these things. So now it is enabling you as well. to start off independently as well, because it handles all the things for you. And
So
for
do you
intern,
mean to say that your tool is replacing the junior lawyers?
not replacing, I would say, because it is enabling them, as I just spoke, it is enabling them, to further start off independently, practice alone, and do something of them, because that is the ultimate goal of every litigating lawyer who has started off at the outset, right? That they want to establish a practice of themselves. So we are enabling them that maybe 3 years earlier they reach that level, to start off early on their own. So it is enabling for both, I believe.
Okay. So moving ahead, you know that startup journey is as smooth as it seems like. So what are the some major challenges you have faced by building knowledge as a young founder?
So I would like to begin this answer with like the journey of a startup founder is like a bed of thorns. I mean,
Okay.
you get
Yes.
prickled every step you take. So, like, see, I'm just 22 and I'm already studying as well. So, the common problem, like, you must always, you can assume easily, is that people not take you seriously at the outset. But then they see your work, they see your perseverance, your determination, and then eventually you get in the right net, and also being an outsider, so that is a second problem. So initially you don't get access to that network of people who are the decision makers, who regulate this industry, and who have sort of made a name for themselves, and it is very important to be amongst that circle. But eventually, once you meet people, you are doing something and people acknowledge your work and praise you as well. So, and then they start treating you at the same level, so that is actually very empowering and motivating at the same time. Like, you're sitting in the same room as the managing partners of the top law firms of the country. So, and people are discussing on a very mutually equal level to build something together in future. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, you can make, I mean, it's difficult, I won't deny that. And also managing studies and everything, it's very difficult. You have to compromise on your social circle, you have to compromise your personal life, but at the end you are there for a cause, for a change that you want to see out there in the world that you want to bring. So yeah, I mean, that motivates you.
And how do you balance your academics along with building a startup?
Academics. Okay, so I have exams like in few days I have exams, but I have not studied anything as of now. But I manage. I mean, you have to also maintain attendance at college. You
Correct.
have to do the sort of activities, projects, and viva assessment, whatnot, everything. While doing your startup, while dealing with clients, dealing with investors. I mean, everything managing at the same time. So yeah, I mean, you compromise on your sleep. That's the shortcut.
uh, because a lot of interns, I know that so basically managing internship is gets it's very difficult for them with their
Mhm.
academics. So now you are managing a whole company basically. It's a very commendable job which you are doing, because interns, like law students, are not even able to manage their internships, and you're managing a company. So it obviously seems that you have already set your priority, like what is your priority, and you already know that कि okay ठीक है, मतलब academics में आप जो पढ़ रहे हो will ultimately what that will help, and how your startup will help you out, and what you're building for the lawyers community. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is there. And also one more thing that I would like to add is that, like, why are these internship? Like, for 1 year, the first year of my law school career, I had done 13, 14 internships. And
Oh.
at that time, I had learned to manage, that gave me the skill to understand the workflow of all
Hmm.
things, corporate, litigation, judiciary. And that gave me an exposure also to the right people. I've worked with the best senior advocates out there, judges and all. So and also I saw the dream that, okay, I want to be like that person, I want to do something different. So yeah, all these things, and you learn to manage things out. So it is important, to grind initially.
Correct, correct, absolutely correct. Yes, so let's move ahead. So, first
Sure.
of all, again, congratulations on getting investors. I'm sure that we have been lucky for you.
Yeah,
As per our
definitely.
Legal Wiki startup pitching competition, you got two investors. So,
Yes.
how has that journey been, and how are investors helping you grow?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, you have been very lucky for me. So it was via that pitching competition that Legal Wiki had organized. We were the runners up of that competition, and luckily, the judges who were the panel. One was a partner at a very reputed law firm, and the other was the founder of a legal publishing media company. So both of them were very interested in our startup, and then we connected. And after a couple of meetings, they already made the mind that they want to invest, and we've been working lately together only on various projects that we have, and it has been a great exposure being around them, because and the professional branding thing that we started, actually it was the idea of one of the investors on the panel, and then we worked towards it. He identified that gap, and we made a solution for it, and now we are generating good amount of revenue as well from that. So I mean, yeah, they help us in all ways sorts via their contacts, references, and many other things. I mean, I'm totally grateful.
That's amazing. So now let's talk about AI, how it is, transforming the legal industry. So as we know that legal tech and AI are getting a lot of attention today these days. So how do you see AI in the legal industry over the next 5 years, especially in India?
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, like I said in a conversation as well, that AI has been revolutionary so far and very fast. I mean, no other revolution, technological revolution, has penetrated this deeper at such a short span of time. So for law, if you see, I mean, the current acceptability, I mean, there is a sort of a reluctance and a friction as well in lawyers to adapt to it at the moment. But I mean, people are still trying it out, and they are trying themselves, that and they have this fear sort of thing, that if they won't try it out and get adapted to it faster, so they would become obsolete after some time. So there isn't an understanding, but they are also trying and figuring out ways how they can integrate the AI, benefits of AI the best way possible. So if I see the legal tech landscape in, let's say, next 5 years in India, so the future is definitely AI native law firms, and also we are working on this end. So wherein because at the moment the current capabilities of AI, it has not developed that far that it can take good decision on its own and can replace human judgment. So the only future is that human expertise augmenting the precision and comprehensiveness of AI, and that way that can be done perfectly via AI driven analytics with human in the loop, but like human for the review and decision making part, the judgment part, whereas on the contrary rest all the manual work, the diversification, the classification, the analytics, everything done by AI. So I mean, yeah, that is the road ahead, I think.
I have read a lot of article and post on LinkedIn as well that AI will take your job, AI is the future, AI will replace the junior lawyers. So now what is your take on whether AI will replace lawyers or will it empower them?
I believe it will never replace any lawyer. I mean, it's not practical, because I said you still require. I mean, let's first understand how a lawyer operates. So, let's say you are a lawyer. Your primary work is not doing the case research or doing the draft. Your primary work is getting those clients and making them feel safe, consulting the client, making him or her feel that, okay, if your case is in my hand, you are safe. I'll get something done for you. I'll get you out of jail or whatever the situation is.
Correct,
So,
correct.
primary part is that client empathy thing, that you consult a client. One is that. And second is the way that your skills, how you argue in court, your courtroom advocacy, all these things AI can never replace. Therein, human intervention is definitely involved and will be involved since n number of ages pass by. So, wherein AI fits in is obviously like in a sort of a way you can say like for a junior lawyer, but like I said previously, it is empowering for them as well. So the roles will change. The current roles that are now, that will definitely change. There will be a shift, wherein different roles will emerge, and no longer such distinction of junior, senior will be out there. But everyone will have something to do, and AI will benefit everybody, every lawyer out there. So it is in a way empowering them. Either it be like based on our services itself. If you see, it is empowering them to become efficient, so that with a lesser cost and with a lesser time, they are able to deliver better results. Secondly is like on their outreach to get more clients, AI helps there as well, to build a brand for themselves, to establish their thought leadership, so that they are more visible and they have more digital presence and more clients come to them. So it is enabling and empowering them in every way, from start of the value chain to the end. So in my opinion, this is so.
Correct, absolutely correct. Okay, so Indian courts have also started adopting AI to the next level, right? They
Definitely.
have started using a lot of AI tools. And when it comes to internationally, you might have read that news that even the AI have started arguing in the court, right? So, what do you think? Where does the India stand there?
I think it will take a long time for these things to be applicable to India, because the Western countries, the first world countries, actually they are very experimentative. So you see, let's say even we take example of the AI regulations. It is out there in Germany, it is out there in EU, but in India there is no as such regulation for AI as of now. I mean, it's in draft stage, but it has not been enacted as of now. So it will take time, and also like the things that you mentioned, AI arguing in the court itself. So, I mean, that is also a very crazy thing that is happening. Even I was very intrigued by knowing this fact. There are also many AI native law firms. The one I am thinking to build here in India, they're already out there for specific use cases in UK and US. There's one Garfield AI. There is one new startup called Norm AI, which is backed by Blackstone. So they are also doing great. They have like picked up a particular issue of parking tickets, I think. So a settlement, court case settlements for motor vehicles act. So I mean, there is tremendous use case. And also if you see, like in India, one step towards this direction is adoption of these ODR platforms, online dispute resolution platforms. Let's say for CADR ODR, there's SAMA, there's Presolve. So what they do is that, let's say NBFCs, there are banks. Okay. So banks have a similar kind of cases in a huge bulk amount. So what AI does is that it's like a virtual court out there, wherein both sides, they're doing arguments on their own, and it is amicably resolving the dispute on a very faster pace. So this is sort of a way forward, but like AI native law firm, it will take some time. Let's say, I mean, at least 5 6 years it will take. But the model that I have spoken about as of now, the right now, that there is a law firm wherein you'll have a software, AI software core as a service, but the review part and the client consultation part, the upper layer is sort of lawyers. So every lawyer out there operates like a partner, if I may put out it in a nutshell. What does partner do in a law firm? They solicit clients, they deal with the client, and sometimes they argue in court or engage on external counsel, right? So similarly, this law firm, I mean, this perception of the law firm can also operate, that AI doing all the core works, either it be operations, either it be bookkeeping, finance, audits, or either it be even the core litigation or legal work, IPR, anything, auditing, anything. So yeah, I mean, that is the way forward. But it definitely requires human intervention constantly.
Correct. And what about law firms? How law firms are reacting to AI tools and the changes happening? And what impact have you seen so far in their workflows and operations?
Okay, so law firms. So, I mean, there is actually a mixed sort of a reaction of law firms. Some are very much upfront for the use, advocating AI, for the use of AI. Like you see Sam and Cam, they have Harvey and Lagora, I guess, which are the top legal AIs of the world. So they have shown a very keen adoption of it. Even the small mid tier firms, they're also adopting, and they have also given good numbers of indications that they are using it on a level. But on the other side, I'll also show you another side, wherein these I won't name the name of the startup, but there is one, like one of the leading startups of India, that has a very huge CAC of acquisition cost for the law firm partners. Let's say they're given 200 partners of a major law firm for free for 6 months. You imagine the amount of tokens and the CAC, and then to it is not finalized whether they would opt their service or not. So it's a very at the moment, it's a very dicey situation, I would say. Versus, like, the aspirations they promise versus what the reality is. I mean, and it will take some time, to actually, let's say this adoption of AI happened, I mean, I think in 2024 late or 2025 early only. So, I mean, it will take at least a year or and a half to, at least understand it actually what the workflow is. But if I see to my customers whom, use AI regularly, who've been using my tool regularly, I see that there is a significant like amount around. We did a analytics after a beta test phase. So 50% of them claim that their time, 50% of the time has been reduced by all of them, and also like costs. They've it has been significantly reduced by 70%. Like you don't need five associates for the work, which can be done with one with my AI tool. So sort of like that, and yeah, I mean, they have been able to get more clients, handle more cases with the limited staff they have. So that way, if you see ROI wise, it is doing good. But yeah, I mean, but it will take some time to actually understand what is out there for all the tools. I can
And
only
to
say that
adapt
one.
also, because we have been working
Hmm.
manually for so many years. So of course it will take time for us to adapt also, to trust on AI tools, which
Yes,
initially
yes.
we thought that hallucinates, because we all started with chat gpt, and then suddenly we are shifting to some AI tools where we want to trust them and we want to delegate our work to the AI tools. So
Also, it has become a sort of a habit as well,
habit as well, correct.
I cannot imagine my life without AI now.
So yeah, as you mentioned that Sam, Cam, they are integrated their workflows with the help of AI, Harvey and all. So of course their tools are very costly, right? But what about mid-sized firm and tier 3 law firms? Do they find the problems in adopting? Because I have not heard about tier 3 law firms that they have integrated their workflows with the AI tools. What about them? And do we have
Actually,
to?
whereas on the I would rather say, like, based on my experience with my tool, they were the ones who had the fastest adoption. I mean, I did not had to take much of time to convince them, because they were actively wanting something to improve their efficiency, A, and B, expand their services at the same time at a lower cost. So I mean, this fits in, at a very good scale. Whereas on the contrary, if you see the larger firms, they have a
Mhm.
lot of, they take a lot of time to, turn around and finally take on a product. Their sales cycle is very long, and lot of key decision holders are involved. So I would rather, in my experience, the tier 3 firms or tier 2, the mid-sized firms, basically the boutique firms as well,
Big
they
ones,
have
huh?
been, yeah, a faster adopters of AI.
And there is one more thing which is being debated nowadays is regarding the billable hours.
Hmm.
So what's your take on that? That
Okay.
in-house counsels, because mostly law firm ke clients कौन है? In-house counsels, right? So now they are not ready to pay because they are like कि most of the works are being done by the AI. So
Hmm.
normally law firms charge on hourly basis. So what's your take on
Billable
that?
ads.
Yes.
Actually, I'll give you an interesting insight. I was reading it, I think, yesterday only. There was a blog written by a famous legal tech evangelist. So he mentioned that, I mean, he did a study of the US market, and he saw that in this Q 2025, they saw that law firm, the in-house counsels are devoting very less work as compared to like the previous year of the same quarter, to law firms, because AI is actually very empowering to all, like I said you. So if you see a value chain, let's say in-house counsel hires a law firm, and then which in turns hires a arguing counsel, right? So for litigation, let's say take that for example. So now it has enabled both the end of the value chains, the in-house people, they also have AI, and they can do most of the work without the law firm. So
Hmm.
I mean, that's what, and also the senior advocate has empowered them also, that they can do most of the research by themselves. So what is hampered is that middle men, that there are the law firms. So I mean, significantly, obviously, and billable hours is definitely debated, that since AI is reducing the time, and that is also one of the reasons why these law firms are, little reluctant to adopt AI, because
Yes.
I mean, time has never been a problem for them. The more amount of time it takes, it is even good for them. because they'll be charged more based on the billable hours they get. Whereas though, so I mean, yeah, this is a very interesting dichotomy that comes play out here in this industry. So let's see how it evolves. I mean, you cannot predict anything as of now whether this billable hour concept will go or not, but definitely, I mean, it's revolutionizing. And now with AI native law firms coming at place, they are offering the same service at a better efficiency and at a better quality in fraction of the cost and fraction of the time. So definitely the end user, that is the companies, will go towards them vis-a-vis these law firms. So yeah, I mean, this will be a shift, I think.
But no one is sure that what's gonna happen in the next, like, 4,
Yeah,
5 years.
you cannot
We
predict
cannot
what will
predict.
happen.
Yes, so. Okay, so moving forward, so basically this was our discussion related to knowledge and the AI, how the AI is transforming in the legal industry. So I have one last question from you. What advice would you give to law students who want to start early as a founder?
Okay. So, yeah, very good question for everybody watching this podcast. So, I mean, you, like, according to me, you shouldn't be purposely, thinking of becoming a founder, because that way you wouldn't get that determination if you weren't seeking this founder position at the outset. So, rather, you should, work closely, observe things around you, workflows around you, what work is going on, whatever genre you're interested in of law, and then you identify the problems. Like, okay, this is my daily work, or this is my senior's daily work, and these are the problems they face. Try interviewing people, talking randomly to different legal practitioners, or let's say people in legal media, or anything, like anything related to law, since you're a law student, and then try to come up with a solution, like what can be done given the existing technologies, what can be done, and then try to build something on those regards. And then now that is only one part of the work. Problem solution, problem statement. Now afterwards you have to get a market validation, that whether the problem that you're solving is not just your, let's say, your illusionary problem, it's actually a problem and there is a market for it. So you do market study, you study the comparative competitors, and you see if there is, and then you make a sort of a prototype or something, and then you give it for beta testing to your users, who, and you have to first identify who's your ideal customer profile. You have to, like, be very particular about that. And then after beta testing, you see that whether they're wanting to pay for your product or not, and that is actually when you identify this product market fit, and then you should get going. But you have to do all this try and test to, understand. And being a founder is a very, it's not that glamorous, I quote and unquote, it's not that glamorous as it seems. You have ups and downs, like every day in your life. And it's very difficult. Sometimes you feel like quitting, but then you remember, like, why you were there at the outset in this particular thing. The basically, the reason why you started at the outset is why, what is actually what instigates you, motivates you to move forward, proceed further, and actually get your goals done. So it is majorly about consistency, determination, and hard work. And no person is equal to the other. Like, you have five different fingers. So, like, let's say one is a found one wants to be a founder, one is very has hunger and passion to build something and bring change around, but the other can be very satisfied doing a corporate job. So to each their own. I mean, if you think you have got the passion and hunger to build something and give, and actually the thing is risk taking, that you are able to give it all. So that is what it takes.
Correct, absolutely. So, Adrika, we have a little surprise for you. So now
Okay.
we have one rapid fire round, though,
Oh
and
my
you
god.
have to answer it very quickly. Okay,
Sure,
so
sure, sure.
I'll start with the first question. One word for your biggest motivation to work on your startup.
Mm, what it is? Passion.
Okay, great. Next, one word you would use to describe yourself.
Fighter.
Nice. One book you would like to recommend to law students or lawyers, and why?
I think the art of psychology. Basically, you, in order to be a good lawyer, you should understand psychology, human psyche, how it operates.
Okay, nice. One thing law students must not ignore in law school.
Socializing,
Correct. Networking, it's of course
networking. Yes,
important, very important. So now, thank you so much, Adrika, for taking the time out and sharing your
sure.
startup journey with us and talking about a much debated topic, how AI is going to transform the legal industry. I hope our listeners will really find value in this conversation. And one more thing, like before ending our conversation, I would like to make a special announcement that those who are watching this podcast, that we Legal Wiki, in collaboration with Knowledge, organizing a 2 days workshop on AI for legal professionals from basic to applications on 13th and 14th December, led by an AI industry expert. In this workshop, we intend to cover the basics of AI LLMs in legal workflows, contract drafting, review, and risk flagging using AI in compliance, M&A and due diligence, ethics and risk of AI in legal practice, hands on live exercise, and career guidance. Participants will also be provided with the recordings, study materials, and certificate as well. So I hope my screen is visible. So
Yes,
basically,
yes.
about our this is about our workshop. And those who are interested, we will mention the registration link in the comment, or you can directly connect with us for the registration. We will mention all the details. So, and those who have not subscribed to our channel yet, do subscribe for more interesting content, and don't forget to visit our website, legalwiki.co. So now, once again, Adrika, thank you so much for joining us for this podcast.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much. I mean, it was fun to, discuss all this. And the rapid fire round was a surprise, actually. So yeah,
Yes.
it was really fun. Hope everything goes good and have a good day. Bye bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye. See ya.